Ross. Oh, uh, dropping another album. I didn't write down which number this was.
Richer than I've ever been. His 11th studio
11th.
album.
I was
Rick
gonna say
Ross,
like 10th, so I was
yeah,
close.
45 years old, been in the game a long time. 11 albums now.
And I'm pretty. I think we've reviewed one or two
Yeah,
since we've been doing the pod, but
We're in
the
Miami too. In 2019 was the last one we talked about.
the real the thing about Rick Ross is he is just like the best feature guy in the game. Although slowly 21 Savage is taking that title over, and 21 Savage appears on this album,
Ah,
and I think has a really great feature. But um, or maybe not top tier Savage. We'll talk about it, but it's still memorable for sure. Um, and I never felt like he put out like an album I was like super blown away by. Like I was always like, oh, that's pretty solid, but I never was like that. That's a classic album. Have you felt that way? I know some people really like his one from a few years back. What's it called? Uh,
I mean, I'd say if anything is close to that kind of status, it'd probably be like Teflon Don 2010.
yeah.
But I'd say no. He doesn't have one of those albums. He hasn't had one of those careers. I mean, I'd say like half of his albums are pretty memorable. But Port of Miami 2 was a welcome return to form, or at least return to more familiar quality from Rick Ross. And I like to think that's continued richer than I've ever been. It's nice to see the consistency we expect from Ross with features to now at least be coming out more on his own solo projects.
Yeah, I agree. I think this album is not. It wouldn't have made my top 10 list if it came out a little earlier for this year, but it has enough tracks on here where I left being like, that was solid. And I really enjoyed some moments and I really enjoyed some features on this. And just overall, he's making really competent music. And I don't think there's anything here that you can knock too much. Um, what were the tracks that stood out to you most?
Yeah, good question. I quite enjoyed the opener, Little Havana, featuring Willie Falcone, a real life, gangster,
Mhm.
weight pusher figure. Nice contrast, comparison to the persona Rose has had in rap for some time now. But I mean, I think the flow is good. Ross in general, I think sounds good in the whole album. But I just really loved his Omarion diss. I released Omarion. He began to fizz, obviously one of his former signees to Maybach Music Group. And yeah, I thought his flow on that was pretty good, and he had the standout quotable.
Yeah, I love the bass on that where it's like wow wow, just really really sticky bass on that. I thought that was great. I mentioned the track with 21 Savage and Jasmine Sullivan, an artist we mentioned on our best of the year, not as someone that made our list because we missed her album last year, but someone that is getting a lot of acclaim on end of year list for having a great record from 2021.
Right.
But I really liked Outlaws a lot. um it kind of reminds me of everything that I want in a Rick Ross song. Is it just sounds like really badass, and him and Savage just play off each other really well. And then you got Jasmine Sullivan singing uh like a nice little breakdown in the middle, and sounds great to me. I don't know. Did you like that track?
Yeah, no, totally. For those reasons, I don't think it's like one of the best 21 features we've got, but it certainly isn't the first bad 21 feature we've gotten in ages.
Right.
It's still good. Pistol talking back, I think it heard it cursing at me or something. 21 just has a unique voice and personality at this point. It's always great to hear him just be a contrast when he shows up on someone else's work.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What other tracks stood out to you?
Yeah, so I liked rappers' Estates with the Butcher coming, Benny the
Hmm.
Butcher. Specifically, the beat on that, the horns really stood out to me. And then on the other side of things, right after that, you had Marathon, where I didn't really like Ross on that. I didn't really like his flow. I thought it was kind of a weak flow, but the beat like really reminded me of like a thriller movie. Not quite a drill beat, but still kind of ominous and eerie.
Yeah, no, it definitely had that eerie vibe to it for sure. Um, what'd you think of the song "Warm Words in a Cold World" with Wale and Future?
I've never been a Wale guy, never been a Future guy, so didn't really change my opinion.
Yeah, stacked up against you there. I kind of liked the sound of it. I don't know if it was like exactly what it was, but not so much Wale and Future's features, but more so just like the overall vibe of it. I think it was like the snap clap to it, and then
Mhm.
having, like you mentioned, the horns on it, kind of rising and falling around their rapping. I thought sounded just really cool. Um, but yeah, I don't think the rapping on that is anything to write
Yeah.
home about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only song I really disliked was "Can't Be Broke." I just didn't really care for the singing on that. But I thought the Dream Doll feature was pretty solid. I even thought the Wiz Khalifa feature was pretty solid. Wiz just dropped a tape with, I believe, Cardo, which I haven't listened to yet. But I always enjoy hearing a solid Wiz feature just because he's not quite as active as he used to be.
Where does like what is Ross's like status in the rap world right now? Just kind of like, is he in the two chains like territory where he's gonna put out some okay records and just do some good features and that's kind of it now?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's about right because he's a peer of like Two Chains and like Pusha T, but I think critically and culturally pushes at like a slightly different level due to his association with Kanye's beef, with Drake, things like that. But yeah, I think Ross is very firm in his status. He's
Mhm.
not as popular as the other label heads. He never has been, but it feels like he's really like solidified his output these days. And I mean, it's funny to think about him like this, but he's only 3 years younger than Nas. So
Oh wow.
yeah, he's 45. Nas is 48. Obviously, we've known about Nas since I mean,
Yeah, he
he
was a
was he was
teenager.
he was notorious before I was a coherent person.
Yeah.
Since the 90s. Ross hasn't been like that, right? Culturally, Ross didn't really make any noise till the second half of the 2000s. But he seems to, in older age, getting his fitness a little bit more under control. He seems to just be really solid and secure. And yeah, I don't think he's dropping any classics, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a slight step up and we get something on par like the King's Disease albums that Nas just released. So it he doesn't sound like washed by any means, despite the
No,
age.
definitely not. Yeah, I think it's just nice to hear him like making competent music, and it seems kind of effortless at this point for him. So, like you said, I think there's a potential to even get something greater than this.